In this video, I want to talk about how F# can upcast input parameters that we provide to a function automatically. So whenever we design functionality in F#, we would do that with some form of input parameters in mind, and they would have some specific types associated with them. Now, when we call that function, we don't necessarily have to call it with the same type as it was originally designed for. We can also call it sometimes with a subtype without doing an explicit cast, and F# will handle that for us automatically. So I want to show you that now, and I opened a few packages here that we're going to need for the example. I'm going to define a function called dispose, like this, and it's going to take a client that implements the iDisposable interface like this, and the implementation of this is going to be client.dispose. So this dispose method is contained in this interface. That's why I had it be an extension of iDisposable. Now I'm going to define two objects, and this function up here is not really important for the sake of this example. So if you're unfamiliar, it doesn't matter so much. What is important, however, is looking at the definition of these two objects. So I'm going to say object 1 is equal to new HTTP client, like that. And let's see, there we go. And object 2 is going to be a new HTTP listener, like that. Let me define all this, and then we can look at the types of these objects that are now defined. What I want you to pay attention to here is object 1 is of type system.net.http.http client, and object 2 is of type system.net.http listener. So these are different types, okay? And you might also ask yourself why I use these new keywords when I define these. I don't have to, and in F# you know that you don't have to use these, but if I define all this stuff without them, you'll see that I get this warning here, and it just sets that it's recommended whenever you use the iDisposable interface to define these instantiations with the new keyword. So we're just going to accept that and follow good programming practices and do this. That's why I have those there. But the key point here is these are two different types, HTTP listener and HTTP client. But what I can do is I can call dispose object 1 like this, and I can call dispose object 2. And if I run this, you'll see that that executes just fine, and that executes just fine as well. If I try to do this with something else, like a number 1, you're going to see that we get an error. But the key point here is that both of these input attributes that we provided are of different types, as you can see here, but we can provide them nevertheless to the function. So sometimes F# does an automatic upcast for us, and whenever we have subtypes like that, we can still call them to higher order functions. So that's just a small thing that's useful to note about how function calls work in F#.